Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We've reached episode 650. It's a monumental achievement. 700 would probably be bigger, but anyway, it's October 27, it's 2021. It's a Wednesday. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
We still don't need more than 640 episodes of PC Perspective Podcast, and I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Spoonberg.
Actually, it was 640K, Josh. I'm sorry to burst your bubble.
Oh God, no, not that
You've
long.
got to do.
Boy, we got to live a long time to be able to do that.
Just do more. Just do mini episodes. Like
Let's do one a week, one a day.
Mini episodes.
Like
15 minutes.
2-3 a week, right?
No,
Just
what
to
I should
catch
do
up.
is in editing, just chop up this podcast into about 100 podcasts
There you go.
and just
Bruce-
spam everybody.
Bruce has a good point. We should have gotten to 666 around Halloween.
Well, you know, things work out.
You can subscribe to find out when we go live for this and other random live stream events like the one at around 7 p.m. today, actually, by going to pcper.com/subscribe to be notified via email in 2021, because that's what people do now. They sign up for email lists. Email has never been hotter. You can support the site by going to patreon.com/PCPer and become a patron of the PC Per Dark Arts. And you can keep the show going. Keep this happening. Keep live streams like earlier tonight happening. I believe Josh ordered some food at a restaurant today.
Oh my.
And he was going to talk about it now.
I am?
Camera 2.
Let me reach my phone and do a ground short in my microphone. Is that still a thing?
This is
hear it. I
great
think
for
you're
the
good.
audio version, by the way.
Yeah,
You're good.
It's fan-effing-tastic. Okay, let me open my gallery so I can explain this. How come it took 2 pictures? This doesn't make any sense. All
It's
right.
a feature.
So I haven't had this in a while, and it's been a while since they offered the special. So they used to have this as kind of a regular. But you know what? Pastrami's is pretty expensive anymore. And this is the pastrami burger. It's pastrami with Swiss cheese. And let me make sure. Horsey mayo. Plenty of horseradish-based mayo on 2 patties of locally sourced grass-fed beef on 2 sesame seed buns. And you think, wow, that sounds kind of boring. But obviously, you've never had pastrami with Swiss cheese and a horseradish-based mayonnaise, because it was fantastic. I mean, I got some of the meat sweats, and it was glorious. And I enjoyed my lunch, and now I'm fasting for another 24 to 36 hours. Because why not? I mean, I care for myself a little bit. Not all that much, but a little bit. And let me tell you, the fries, even though they're not fresh cut, their consistency has gone through the roof, and they still use that really good seasoning. I don't know what it is. I wish I need to find out. I need to twist some arms.
Salt.
Because the seasoning is fantastic. It's salt and some other things in there, and it's fantastic. And they're perfectly done. Golden, crispy fries. Nice, soft, steamy insides. Not mushy, not wet, not greasy. They're just really fantastic. I think that, you know, if you're a purist and you're like, you know, I want hand-cut fries and I want them done now, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But whatever they got with these, they're exceptional tasting fries that just come out great every time. So yeah, lots of pastrami, lots of burger, some Swiss cheese, and some horsey mayo. And you know, that makes for a happy Wednesday when there are very few other happy things happening.
How are you
But
feeling,
that's another
Josh?
story.
You feeling a little
What?
bloated after that? Maybe a little.
No, I'm feeling great.
You are. Oh, interesting.
Well,
Because I was
the day
wondering.
before, I had some of the Huel, you know, kind of Huel gruel. And there's so much fiber in that thing. I mean, it just, you know, it's like a Roto-Rooter. through you. It's amazing. So you have plenty of space for a burger.
I was just wondering if you were feeling a little down, and that's why you didn't broadcast from the hot tub as you promised earlier today on Twitter.
Okay, here's the problem. I don't have a hot tub. And I'm not going to sit in a regular tub and do this.
Why not?
Because electricity
neighbors.
tubs, they just don't mix.
Nobody would know
I
if there wasn't
promised, I know.
water in it, Josh. It's just the illusion. They just want to see the nudity.
So
don't
it's
care about the water.
Well, I mean, I could have wore a robe like I did in Vegas that one time that they took a picture of me.
Yes.
Just break into random neighbors' houses until you find a hot tub.
But yeah, I got this Asus thing, ROG Gaming. They sponsored some gal to game on their laptop in a tub.
Mhm.
So that's obviously inspiring that Josh Walrus should do a podcast from a hot tub.
Josh,
But
let's
nobody's
be honest
bought
here.
me a
How many
hot
hot tubs? How many hot tubs are there in Laramie?
Oh, probably quite a few.
It's cold there. It's
Yeah.
the
That's
what I
perfect
was
diversion.
I mean, people like hot tubs
Okay.
in cold weather. You go run out there and you get cold and you jump in a hot tub and it's all hot.
You got a point.
And then you do that whole quenching thing where you jump out of a hot tub because you're so hot and it's like, oh, this feels nice because it's so cold. You run through the snow. And yeah, running through snow is not nearly as bad as you think it is. You should
You gotta
try
try
it.
it.
It cleanses the soul.
You
Especially
can
after a
actually
hot tub.
hear
It's off the
your
rails.
pores slap together.
Oh, it's awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's wonderful.
All right.
okay.
Let's move on to our first news story of the evening. As you know, Intel had an announcement today. It was a whole live event you can watch, and previously, media had been briefed on these upcoming things. So there's all these stories out there with slides, a look at early performance numbers via Intel, which we can talk about. We are, of course, talking about Alder Lake, which we've talked about before, and they already covered some of this stuff during the Architecture Day earlier this year. But they have sort of launched Alder Lake Desktop. You can pre-order it. I know there's a page up at Newegg right now. But they have detailed some of the SKUs. They went over the unlocked SKUs. So we actually have a slide here to look at. At the top end, of course, is the Core i9 12900K, listed as a $589 price, but that's the 1,000 unit tray price. I saw it earlier today at $649 at Newegg. I don't know what that translates to in Micro Center dollars, but it is $649 at Newegg. Last I checked. So that's up there, but it has...
Micro Center dollars are smaller, by the way.
Yeah, I assume so. Or no, they're bigger because they need fewer of them, right?
Well, okay, sure. Yep.
Have you guys looked at the lineup, how it kind of compares to what AMD offers? Obviously, the core counts are up because this is the hybrid core design. It's got efficiency cores.
Performance efficiency cores.
Yes. Here's that.
It actually it matches up nicely, and in terms of price wise, the 5950 is now well above the 12900K, and so that's going to be a sticking point when AMD finally gets their hands on some of these chips and does some internal testing. They're going to have to adjust things depending on their actual supply, and now that you can actually buy these CPUs online, they've got supply. So I'm expecting that there is going to be a price drop. Don't know how much. It may not be all that amazing of a price drop, but it's going to be there somewhere.
You actually cannot pre-order the 12900K because it says it is currently sold out. I wonder how many of these there will actually be at launch. Here's something.
Let me tell
interesting.
you.
What?
The 10900K, those things were rare as hen's teeth at launch, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they were.
And I was talking to some people around the industry, and they were like, yeah, we're a major OEM, and we got them in the dozens for our launch. And it's, I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, this is the new, Intel 7 process. They don't call it nanometers anymore. They don't call it plus. It's now just a number, when 7 is now used to be a 10 plus 10, 10 plus. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, 10 plus plus
But,
plus super fin.
Oh, for the love of Mike. We can we'll get about some of this stuff later when we talk Intel and AMD financials. But it's still not a totally 100% process where they want it. I mean, no process is perfect. None. You will not get 100% yields from anything. You will not get all the bins that you want. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, it's just physics. It's life. But there are certain benchmarks that a process has to kind of, hit to be considered profitable. And previously, Intel had super, super, super profitable processes. And that started taking some hits around 22 nanometer. Then they got to 14, and initially it was pretty bad, but they got that beefed up. And so it was really making them some money. And then we had the issues with 10. And there were a lot of issues for a lot of years. And even at its best, it never could match what 14 was giving them, even though they made things, less dense and higher performance. And it just never reached that threshold. And now they renamed it 7 for this, as far as I know, if I'm talking about this right. Am I talking correctly? Am I speaking?
No, yeah. This is, the marketing
areas?
term is now Intel 7 instead of calling it.
They still haven't. They still have not reached the levels that they previously understood as being where they want them. It's far lower than that. I mean, it's not like it's going to break Intel. It's not, but it just has not hit a lot of those benchmarks that previous processes. And as we will see when we talk about margins,
let's talk about those benchmarks.
Okay.
This is a very, very contentious point among the the vocal minority and the tech media and the people who are very literate about such things, who look at the fine print, who ask questions. I don't think the general public
I'm
care.
part of the literati.
Yes. So what's the problem with this, Josh? No. What's the problem with this chart?
There's not enough chartreuse.
Ryzen
but there
results.
is some kind of burnt umber. I mean, would you call that burnt umber? The AMD?
It's a little more orangey, but somewhere in there.
It's almost a brown, but as I saw in a recent Technology Connections video, apparently brown is just orange. So, Ryzen 5950X was tested on October 1st using the unpatched version of Windows 11, which has severe performance issues with said processor. So, some of these are going to be different. The deltas are going to be different between this very impressive
the difference in scale.
So, I mean, at least the scale of the chart is okay, because it starts at 0.
0.5, 10, 50.
I don't know what that means, but
no, it's 0.51, and so it's a normalized 100%.
Yes,
they're using the i9 11900K as the 100%.
Okay.
But yes, the issue, as you were speaking of, is this was based on October 1st benchmark data using a build that obviously does not have improved performance patches that gets AMD processors up to speed. And so I think that Intel, so here's the spot. You're on a deadline. At the end of September, we have to have these benchmarks in because we're going to present to press at an NDA thing. We need to have benchmarks. We need to show. Not only that, but we need to have this material and information so we can send it to legal and they can go over all the slides and presentations and say, yes, you can go ahead and talk about this stuff. That's perfectly fine. And of course, they're launching now, 27 days later, and Windows 11 is not exactly fully baked. So I don't think that this is, dishonest in terms of Intel's side, because it is a rather large organization that does not turn on a dime. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I'm just saying.
But it sounds like you are.
I know. I can't. I'm such a shill, as you well know, a very pro Intel shill all my entire life. However, we will have third-party information here sometime.
At some point in the near future.
And we're going to see people testing on Windows 10, a mature OS that is well optimized. And we are going to see results on Windows 11 with these performance patches applied. So
but
don't go too crazy about these results.
What does Brett have to say?
Hang on a second. Here, you have to understand that clearly you do understand this, but there's a lot that actually goes into the operating system and how it actually uses this new hybrid design. And even testing on Windows 10 isn't necessarily going to do it if Windows 10 isn't cognizant of how to split tasks across the hybrid silicon. Big little is what I'm referring to. Do you think
that Intel will allow Windows 10 to exhibit that behavior?
That's a very interesting question.
We're talking about
put a lot of effort into Windows 11.
Of quarter company who has very close ties to Microsoft.
Yeah. Who worked closely with Microsoft on Windows 11 to optimize the behavior of these
but do you think that they're going to ignore Windows 10, which is installed on 95% of PCs around?
You hope not.
Microsoft is just going to push out Windows 11 like an update and get everybody on it like they tried to do with 10.
Right.
So
they've already started trying, but it ain't going to happen for a lot of people.
But it's obvious that the performance characteristics are going to be heavily dependent on how well optimized the operating system is. So it's not necessarily all down to the silicon now. Clearly, look at the patches between AMD and Intel alone. So,
but when you're benchmarking, what cores are going to be more utilized?
Oh, clearly the high performance ones.
Yeah, and so I think that even unpatched, you're probably going to see, the basic kernel throwing most stuff at the performance. So I don't think that we're going to see this strange skew at Windows 10 versus Windows 11. Now, Windows 11 will do a little bit better in offloading things in the background to those efficiency cores, stuff that is not at the very forefront where they really need performance. I mean, it's going to be probably more fine-grained, but I don't think it's going to be a massive increase in performance going from Windows 10 to Windows 11. I could be wrong, but I just don't see that.
Well, the years that we've spent fixing that janky Windows 10, the way that it deals with multi-threaded operations, I think we've realized that Windows 10 scheduler is kind of baked and it's been fixed over the years. So I don't think Intel is going to assign Core 0 to one of their efficiency ones. I think they'll figure out a workaround so that it's pretty much only going to see the P cores and that's it. Like Josh says, we could be wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When explaining the architecture, Intel has stated that the thread director is built into the silicon. It's actually in the CPU. So, yeah, you need the operating system to see that. But if Windows 10 has that support, or Intel provides that support via the chipset driver, or whatever it needs to do, then I don't see why Windows 10 would have such a performance penalty compared to 11, as long as you're running the new platform, latest drivers. I'll have to see. I don't know if 600 series is going to have the same kind of driver support for Windows 10 as Windows 11.
We have a comment from the Peanut Gallery. Alan, who has stated that unpatched threads can end up on the wrong cores. Just test on Win 11 build with the AMD patches for the most apples to apples. So currently,
that's what we told you.
Yep, the unpatched threads can potentially end up on, as Josh was guessing, potentially end up on the wrong sized cores.
You're talking about with Windows 10?
If I interpret what he's saying.
I think it's Windows 11.
Oh, with Windows 11.
He said Windows 11.
Okay. Yeah. One of the other things while we're on the subject of the 600 series chipset, this is a new platform, of course, because it's LGA 1700. In addition to the new CPUs, of course, DDR5 support, PCI Express 5 support. The chipset itself has PCIe 4 now, and then it's got Wi-Fi 6E built in now. The DMI revision has gone up to 4.0 from 3.0, which apparently doubles the bandwidth. So you're getting a lot with the platform beyond just support for the new CPUs. So it's an impressive platform, and now they can say we're the standard now. Instead of AMD kind of lording it over them for a while, there was a couple years where they had PCI Express 4, and Intel was languishing with PCIe 3. And even this last generation, they had 4 off the CPU, but it was still PCIe 3 off of the chipset.
You know, when AMD released PCIe 4.0, they had one product out, which is actually a little bit more than what Dell can say right now.
Yeah, wait for CES. I'm sure there'll be so many PCIe 5
there will be.
SSDs that are barely faster than a PCIe 4 SSD.
Yeah, but that's it's cool that Intel has gotten out of the blocks and has done this, because they were just languishing for so long in terms of chipset technology. It is refreshing that not only they're releasing 500 PCI 5, but also the Wi-Fi 6 and other stuff. I mean, this is an area where they just have not showed any innovation in a while. And somebody's going to probably slap me up and say, well, what about blah, 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 blah. But yeah, no, I mean, it took a year and a half for Intel to get to PCI 4.0 after AMD. And now they are just going gangbusters, like, all right, we're going to offer 5.0 and match that. And AMD's not going to be able to until Zen 4, which is in late Q3 2022. So it's a pretty good lead, and they're going to win some benchmarks once in the springtime that we actually see PCI 5.0 devices. And I'm going to be very curious about GPUs in the future.
Yeah, I saw a comment about Intel GPUs going to be on PCIe 5.
No, they are not.
No, of course not.
No.
I'm pretty sure they're not going to be.
No,
I could be wrong.
No need to.
Yeah.
Unless you want like a buy
There were
2
some-
GPU or something.
There were some Intel GPU pricing rumors that just came out. I probably should have put that in some show notes. Right?
It's okay. We'll probably be a slow news week next week. Yeah, we can
talk about it then.
Talk about it then. Hey, Josh, have you warmed up yet? Get a drink of water.
What are we talking about now?
Financials. Get that.
Who do you want to hear about first?
Well, AMD's first on the list, and they're alphabetically first. And
Now
they're
let's
first
do
in the
Intel
hearts.
because they announced several days before, and there was plenty of fallout.
I don't have Intel pulled up. not even on the list, Josh.
I can describe them. For
Yeah, but I need some kind of
podcast
visual
listeners.
stimulation for the video viewers. of
for the
video.
love of Mike, let me give you
Hold
a
on, I'm
link.
going to I found the link. I found the link. Hold on.
Mike's getting a lot of
I'll
love.
just
That's
take it to
twice
AT.
tonight.
Nantech, they have a nice little Q3 2021 financials result gap, and we can talk about some of the things.
Non-tech, Intel.
Links in
Financials.
staff channel.
It sure is.
See,
So
this is
just
weird.
to-
They're on Q3, but AMD's on Q4. Business is strange.
Don't
Wait,
ask
let
where
me
NVIDIA
double
is.
check. Yeah,
They're on
October
like
21st.
Q5 of.
No. AMD's on
2032.
Q3.
I thought it was Q4.
Q4 is not until 2022 that we'll actually hear
Oh
those.
yeah, you're right.
No,
Okay,
they're
I'm looking
both
at
on
the wrong
Q3.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's NVIDIA that has that whacked, release schedule.
Okay, Josh. Let's talk about Intel earnings.
Let's talk about Intel, baby. Let's talk about something. Wow, that's so cringy. Like 100,000 people just totally stopped the podcast on that one. I apologize.
I'll just cut it out.
Okay, maybe not 100,000, but anyway, Intel had an interesting Q3. It was $500 million less than Q2, and that caused some interesting ripple effects throughout the financial sector. They dropped their share price pretty significantly after these results, even though there was a couple of positives in there. Positives were that they increased gross margins from 53.3% up to 56%. And that's a big thing for them. That means that 10%, 10 nanometer, Intel 7 is improving in its operation. I mean, it's doing better. And it's doing significantly better than what it was last year in Q3 2020, which was 53.1%. However, they have to balance that out with wafer buys from TSMC because they are currently ramping up their graphics cards and chips to be released in the Q1 2022, which is kind of the latest rumors, and what guys like Roger are saying is like they'll be here soon. And that's where money's going. So they're improving their margins, but at the same time, they're kind of hitting some walls there. I mean, back in the day, 63 to 65% margins was what Intel was used to operating at. And when you drop 8 to 10 points from that, that has a significant impact on your budgets and your business and what you can offer shareholders, which is, of course, what share price is kind of based on. So they've taken a hit. So not only do they have less revenue from the year before, they do have increased margins, but their growth is significantly lower than what AMD has. Now, AMD has a much smaller share, obviously, but they're showing 12% quarter on quarter, 54% year on year. I mean, that's just absolutely massive growth. And Intel has shown that they had 500 million less in revenue quarter on quarter. And that's sending up some, warning signals and sirens and red flags. But you got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt because AMD is still, less than 25% of the market? Far less than 25%. And Intel still has a commanding lead, not only in the products that they offer, but manufacturing. And now they're even leveraging TSMC. And because of their cash treasure chest that they have, they can do wafer buys that nobody else could really afford, except maybe Apple. Well, except definitely Apple, as we see with their 5 nanometer current M products. But still, Intel, they're taking a hit. They're still a juggernaut. They're still the biggest player in the PC market. They have seen that erode in, obviously, the Apple market, who now has gone to all custom silicon. They are losing market share to AMD, who has shown significant growth year on year. And 500 million decrease in revenue quarter on quarter, where it is supposed to be the strongest 2 quarters of the year, that's kind of unheard of from Intel, except for maybe like in 2003, 2004, 2005. So interesting times. And there's a lot to think about there. Do you guys have any comments?
You already sort of alluded to AMD's financials, so I thought maybe you could seamlessly transition into that topic to see the contrast here. Because I wonder how much of this has to do with supply constraints, or if it's just like overall market contraction. It seems like the opposite was true. There was such demand. There's just not enough silicon out there.
I don't know. I wonder if the actual wafer shortage is as bad as it was a couple of quarters ago. I think that there's been a lot of stuff in place, and I know that is a general term. There's a lot of stuff in place to kind of mitigate some of the issues with wafer starts. So, take for example AMD back in the day, way back in the day, like 2004. They essentially got their production in litho and initial, deposition and etching and that. And then they would actually store wafers in kind of a warehouse, but they were able to optimize the bottlenecks of manufacturing so that they could really, really increase their throughput. And I would imagine that TSMC is doing much the same. And plus, they continue to increase their overall production. They take production away from older nodes that are not as utilized, and they buy machines piecemeal. They program. Because they've got those those big kind of trolleys that go up into the air, and they've got 25 wafers a piece. I mean, they can do a bunch of things with tools and where they are on the production line and where they can be stored. And they actually it seems like, if I remember correctly, they had a small drop in orders than what they were kind of expecting. So I don't think that wafer supply is as tight as it used to be. I could be totally wrong here, but it seems like the issue now is more the channel is being held back, not so much by manufacturing of silicon and wafers, but all the other components and shipping, and that's more of an issue for these companies than TSMC not being able to provide as many wafer orders. There's still constraints, obviously. You can't buy as many wafers as you want, but AMD has been slowly increasing. And I mean, if we look at their quarter, they made $4.3 billion in revenue, which is up from $3.85 billion in revenue. And if you can do some quick math, that's about $500 million in revenue. Strange, no?
It's big.
But their margins, their actual margins are still not great. 48%, which is much higher than their absolute lowest, which was around 32% way back in the day. I mean, that was when they were making, we had a quarter of $800 million in revenue. Our margins were 31%. These things are not good. However, sitting at 48%, and especially considering that they have their semi-custom silicon group, who right now is going gangbusters in between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S. Those are lower margin products, and that drags overall margins down. So that they're sustaining 48% means that much of their other production is increasing in margin, only to be dragged back down by the semi-custom stuff. Of course, what semi-custom is there's some initial revenue there that they don't have any product, but these guys, Sony and Microsoft and others, are paying AMD to develop these products, and then they get some royalties from them in the future, depending on how they actually get wafer orders done. Sometimes Microsoft handles that. Sometimes they ask AMD to handle wafer orders. Same thing with Sony. It's a fluid situation depending on contracts and where the market is. But overall, it is lower margin, but it is a longer stream of income that kind of covers up some of the other deficiencies of those entire multi-year contracts. Clear as mud.
I just kind of zone out at some point.
God, I feel so stupid.
But it is interesting to think about the margins.
It's
I
not
don't
interesting.
paying
I'm
attention.
boring as.
What are Intel's margins like? So AMD, you say
No, it's good.
they're low at like 48%.
Yeah.
What does Intel
Okay.
make?
So historically, Intel was between 62 and 65%.
Okay.
For the majority of their time. NVIDIA exists above 60% pretty much all the time. And so, if you consider a 20% drop in margins, I mean, that's a significant amount of money. And I mean, your products are not worth as much. But right now, we're still, I don't think we're in the crunch that we were in 6 months ago. But they're still achieving pretty good margins. And so these are very, very positive things for AMD. Again, their net income went from $710 million in Q2 up to $923 million in Q3. Their cash flow went down a little bit. I think that they're actually investing in more wafers with TSMC so they can continue the growth that they're on. So these are all really positive things. I mean, they're leveraging the cash to make sure that they have enough product coming in. And I mean, if you look at the CPUs that they have right now, you can buy one at MSRP. You can go out and actually buy a 6800 XT you'll just pay $1,200 for it as compared to 600 and some, which is supposed to be. But they're available, and you can actually buy one. I don't know when we'll go back down to regular prices, if prices regular will ever exist again. But AMD had a tremendous quarter. It was a record in terms of revenue. It was a record in terms of net income. Their margins are getting back up there to a healthy level and sustainable level. They have invested in their supply chain. They've got products coming down. They will just continue to grow. And it's going to be curious to see how much market share they have, and they will gain, because still their EPYC products are class leading in terms of efficiency, performance, scalability, and in terms of feature sets. And so this is these are all very, very positive for AMD, and they will just continue to keep going up for a while. 6 months looking pretty good. After that, there are going to be other challenges ahead for them. I mean, we don't know. I haven't heard anything about Zen 4 taping out or initial results or anything like that. All we know is that in Q1 2022, we'll get the what do they call it? The V-Cache chips.
3D.
You gotta help me out in here. Yes, the 3D cache chips stacked upon their higher end Zen 3 products, and that will help in a tremendous amount in gaming and in certain benchmarks and other applications. And I'm kind of curious how video editing and photo editing will do with all that extra L3 cache that they will be able to access coming up in early 2022.
Let's pause here for a word from our first podcast sponsor this week.
Are you looking for a company to support your existing IT staff in cybersecurity, network optimizations, or even manage your entire IT infrastructure? It's time for you to take a look at VPLS. VPLS is a managed service provider with over 20 years of industry experience in direct support or even as an entire outsourced IT department. VPLS is a true one-stop shop with their own data center and technical staff to handle everything from data protection to server hosting. They're staffed with industry experts from all across the IT industries and can help you with backup and disaster recovery, help desk and IT support, or even a full custom cloud migration. Look at VPLS as one way to shift the responsibility of managing your IT needs from your business teams and into the hands of the certified professionals at VPLS. They operate 24/7 by 365 and can provide after-hours support for your organization. If you're looking to bulk up your existing IT teams or expertise for a specific project or blocking issues such as after-hours support or even wireless optimization and cabling, take a look at VPLS. VPLS can make information technology a competitive advantage for your business. So visit www.vpls.com/GoIT to see all their offers. That's www.vpls.com/GoIT.
We're back, and let's talk briefly about Apple again. 2 weeks in a row. Fans can't stand it, but we're going to slog through a story about M1 Pro and Max. And this was a good write-up at AnonTech. And I actually previously was looking at this because I have a friend who wanted to buy one of the new MacBook Pros, was asking me all kinds of questions about the performance. Like, I have no idea. I don't have one. I'm not getting one. But you can go to AnonTech and read all about it. Brett, what do you know?
No, they've got the benchmarks. So if we could just skip to the graphs, there's a pull-down menu right there, M1 Pro. So if you just go to the CPU ST benchmarks, so it's like 3 down right there. This is single-thread benchmarks of the M1. And you could see that even the Max, they're testing with the Max here, isn't actually all that off from the M1. So single-threaded, they're actually fairly comparable. So that's the dark gray and the gray lines.
Okay,
of course you can see them.
These charts are a little
Okay,
just so at the bottom we have the legend here. So M1 Max
so you've
is
got the dark gray,
Apple M1 is the slightly less dark gray.
Correct. Blue, of course, Intel. The reddish is
the 11980 HK. So the current flagship mobile part.
Mobile chips, and
Okay.
you can see the M1 and M1 Max, as we've come to understand, are a little bit beefier, a little bit faster than their AMD or Intel counterparts, and that in single thread performance, the M1 Max is very similar. It doesn't really kill the old M1, except under a couple of conditions here. So if you could go to multi-thread is where you see it really. So let's just hop to the next one, MT. As they say, a real monster. So if you could take a look at these bars, you could see them really doubling practically some of the previous version M1 performance scores, and still obviously outstripping all of the best of the AMD and Intel chips can possibly do right now. So this is where we expected things to be against current gen possible chips from both Intel and AMD in the laptop space. This is not too surprising. Apple's gone down on their 5 nanometer process, I do believe, on this. So they've got efficiency and a whole, cycle ahead of everybody else. But the next story is where it starts to become more interesting. So that's all I wanted to say, is that we projected that this is kind of where we thought it was going to go. AnandTech tested it out. Yeah, they're a lot faster than they used to be, especially in multi-thread. Not all that much in single-thread performance.
So then what happened with the leaked Geekbench numbers then?
Well, if you take a look at the what I termed the potential Intel strikes back, is that Jeremy wrote this story up. So Jeremy, if you want to talk a little bit about this, but you can see M1 Max 1785 and 1,000 points behind the new, which version of this Alder Lake chip with a score of 1851.
Yeah, no, it's looking relatively impressive, because Apple's gone from, holy crap, we're doubling everything that it can do, to, Alder Lake is actually, if not competitive, actually edging out in one or two of the benchmarks. And both of them, of course, are leaving the Ryzens in the dirt right now, which is rather impressive considering what it looked like when they first arrived. So it's kind of nice to see. Now, of course, these are leaks. They may be run in interesting fashions. We really don't know. But as far as the benchmarks are showing on Geekbench, you're seeing some decent single-threaded and some really serious multi-threaded performance. So it'll be interesting to see what these are like when they finally hit.
See, the problem I have with some benchmarks like Geekbench, is that you can really truly optimize them for an ISA. We talked about this, on Twitter some. I mean, if you ever want to, see some burgers and maybe even some tech content. x86 ISA is, these instructions could be 1 byte up to, I think, like 16. RISC stuff, which is like ARM, which is what Apple is based on, the ARM. It's a consistent 4 byte, and so decode becomes much more complex for x86. However, they do all kinds of interesting things in decode for across both ARM, AMD, Intel, so that ISA doesn't become as big of a stumbling block for real actual applications. However, if you write a simple benchmark that's just iteration after iteration, you got to, figure this out. There's no, variable complexity that you would see in real life with like video editing and photo editing, or, other kind of applications like gaming, stuff like that, which is very, very random and it's not as ordered. Geekbench and things like that. I mean, it's kind of ordered up there. And I mean, I'm not talking down what Apple has done, because what they have done to this point is really impressive. They have caught up to the other leaders of the industry, and they have a really compelling product. But again, it's not the end all be all, and you need to sprinkle this all with salt and kind of figure things out. And I don't know really where it's going on with this rant, other than take Geekbench with a large grain of salt and wait until you actually see applications from like Adobe and some of these other guys that you can do actual measurements of the work that they do and how well they do it.
And of course,
Does that make sense?
yeah, and there will be an M1 optimized
clearly.
version of the Adobe Suite, so that Apple does such an incredible job with optimizing for their own OS because they obviously
They do.
own it all.
And their own hardware.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it's-
true.
And they lasso people in because of a variety of reasons. But, you know, it is really interesting and incredible how much that you can do if you really just have a singular focus on, I'm going to make this program, this application, this algorithm perform absolutely best on this hardware, and I'm just going to focus on it.
And I know what the hardware is going to look like almost 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
Especially when
that
they're-
economy of scale in that way, yes.
Yep.
Especially when they're
I
making
mean, that
just-
whole walled garden, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing on the
If
inside.
your
it's just
problem
hard
is
to
in their
do.
space, then you're
Yeah.
probably going to be very, very well served.
Otherwise, into the catapult with you. Out of the wall.
What can you tell us quickly, Jeremy, about Bethesda's new Starfield trailer? You said it offers a ton of detail, right? You said as much detail as the first one.
Yes.
How much?
Which is to say, like, almost none whatsoever
No.
at all about what the game is going to be like. We know it's probably going to be, and they don't even tell you this, but I can tell you this. It'll probably take place in Mu Era, otherwise known as Cervantes, which happens to be a sun that we measured recently that's about 50 light years ago and has a super Earth orbiting it. So pretty sure that's what they're going to go with here. But regardless, it's 50 years from home, or 50 light years from home. There are the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective that had a war. End of sentence. We there you go. There's three groups. There's of course space pirates, because you can't have a space game without space pirates. There's the
so
fanatics.
this is kind of like Firefly, right?
Maybe that's why they're not showing us much, because they don't want to get caught
Yeah.
out.
You got the Ravager type guys.
Yeah.
Then you got the brown
The
coats,
corporate
and then
types.
You've got the Alliance. So
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
and the
Let's
fanatics.
move along. Yeah.
Don't forget the fanatics.
The true
yes,
believers.
Actually, it's Babylon 5. Or wait, no, it's yeah. There you go. So it's your good old space opera, but literally all of it is stills of high-tech cities, and they're talking about how you're a member of Constellation, going out to search unexplored areas and find new undescribed things. But yeah, all they're showing you is high-tech cities. And then at the very end is an animation of a loading dock closing, which may or may not have been in-game.
yeah.
I'll kind of forgive them because they're a year and a bit out, but still, I mean, either just keep it to yourselves or give us something to look at.
Yeah. What's a trailer without, visual impact?
I know. It's like
Just a
Jen
press release
McCarthy
at that
without. Never mind.
Without a hand up is okay. Windows 10, Jeremy writes, wasn't the end of OSs, but it is the end of UWP. Really?
Huzzah. Yes.
Finally.
Dozens of people are upset about this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you did the UWP stuff right in the XAML language that everyone hated with good reason, you can probably migrate to the Windows App SDK and still keep hawking your stuff on the Windows Store. So, I mean, that's nice for those 3 or 4 projects that are still going, considering UWP hasn't been updated in forever, and there's some really good reasons for that. So Windows App SDK is going to be more C# and C++ based. So it's going to be a little bit more mainstream and not quite so bizarrely implemented as UWP was. But at the same time, there's a lot of people saying, look, Microsoft likes to build up these SDKs and then just abandon them completely. And then they build up another one and they abandon it completely. So yeah, you really want us to trust this and not go off to program somewhere else? We'll
Wait, are
see.
you saying that Microsoft is like Google now? Or maybe Google got it from them?
I'm not sure who got that one first.
Oh.
Google's better at it. I'll give them that. But
Yeah, Microsoft's been
Yeah.
at it longer, though.
yeah,
Microsoft
Force
is force
installing.
PC
Yeah.
health check. Okay.
and it's force reinstalling it too if you uninstall it.
Oh,
Wow.
great.
Wow.
Wait, isn't Isn't that like the Office Space PC load letter, and you want to take a bat to it because
Yeah.
This is just the first step in forcing Windows 11 on every Windows 10 user who has an internet connection and doesn't know how to,
just disable
So, I mean,
TPM,
things.
and it'll keep telling you to screw off.
Yes, it will. Well, no, it'll start whining and saying, we've scanned your hardware and we know that you're actually capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
You should turn that on.
Totally
You
do
should
it.
have it. You should have
Yeah,
it.
see, that's the second check.
I wanna
This
have
PC
BitLocker.
supports secure
Yeah.
boot, and it also checks to see if TPM 2.0 is enabled. So if you have that disabled, it's just going to keep on nagging you endlessly.
Yeah.
So that will be next.
Yeah,
and then after
I'm
that
married.
will be the button.
Oh, I'm used to it.
Yeah, that's the total parental module. But yeah, so next after
So,
that,
yeah.
there will be the update button. And then they will hide the update button, and all there will be is a hidden don't update now, because every other button will actually be the update, including the X, as we saw in Windows 10.
So everybody that does Windows support for family members, be prepared to start receiving questions about what is this telling me?
Do I need Windows 11? Do I want that? What is that? Is that good?
the
Is that gonna
devil?
Make my computer
Well, there's
faster?
a red X. There's a red X on this TPM thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
You broke it. You broke it the last time you were here. I know it worked before.
Go to settings in the programs and KB500546. Do you see that on your list there?
Doesn't matter.
No.
It'll just reinstall itself anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, just,
There is a
yes.
registry hack to
Windows
stop
11
it.
is great. Yeah, hit yes. Hit yes to every prompt.
just
yes.
yes,
Mom.
all the way
Yep,
through.
you want it. It'll make your computer faster and better at the same time.
And I can tell you that I don't know
free.
how it works, so you have to go somewhere else. Sorry.
Giant
don't know
bags
Windows 11.
suck. It's a good time for a sponsor break.
Let's pause.
Brought
for
to you
sponsor
by-
number 2.
Say goodbye to repetitive text entry, spelling and messaging errors, or sometimes even trying to remember the right thing to say. Text Expander can remove the repetition out of your work so that you can focus on what matters most. It's superior to simple copy and paste operations. It's way better than scripts and templates. Text Expander snippets allow you to maximize your time by getting rid of the repetitive things you type while still customizing and personalizing your messages. Text Expander makes it easy to give your team the right words for every situation. It helps keep your team consistent, accurate, and current. With it, you can share your text and images with the whole staff to keep them on track. Everyone will share the same messaging and can give the same answers to all customer questions. Use Text Expander's powerful shortcuts and abbreviations to streamline and speed up everything you type. Now that's an increase in productivity. Text Expander is available for Mac, Windows, Chrome, iPhone, and iPad. Show listeners get 20% off their first year. So visit textexpander.com/podcast to learn more. That's textexpander.com/podcast.
There are some people who choose to play PlayStation 3 games on their PC instead of playing PC games, even though you know you have a huge backlog on Steam. And what are you doing with your life? Anyway, if you
Wow,
are one
that's
of these
personal.
strange people who uses a PC to play PS3 games, then you'll be happy to know that our PCS3 now has at least nominal support for just about every title ever made, right?
It will at least start,
Before it crashes.
Yes.
Look, playable's up to 63.53%.
which is well over 3,000 games. Now, you got to own the game. This is only an emulator.
Right.
There is no list of games that you can then get because, I mean, not everyone has 3,233 games just sort of hanging around,
of course not.
except in aforementioned Steam library. So, yeah, you're going to have to own them, or at least, find a way to possess them. And the vast majority of them are playable. And even of the ones that are down in the next category, they're still perfectly playable. It's just that you might run into a game-breaking bug where you won't be able to finish the game. But there's quite a few that have said that, no, I never ran into that issue before. So it's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Hey, at least this is the PS2 3 because PS2 was such a pixelated mess.
Hey, if you use, what is the PS2 emulator? There's one out there where you can, you can tweak the internal resolution. When I heard that they were, when Final Fantasy 12 was being remastered, I went in and took out my old copy, put it in the disk drive, ran it with the emulator, doubled the internal resolution. It looked the same as the remaster to me. There's some of the assets needed higher resolution textures, but It's pretty amazing what you can do with.
I still distinctly remember back in the day watching the original Xbox play Halo, and it looked pretty good. Playing other things like Project Gotham Racing, right? Which for the time was fantastic looking. And then looking at the PS2, and they had some racing games, and it's like, this is butt ugly. Because they didn't actually have a graphics processor doing graphics processing things.
Stop being such a snob, Josh. You didn't play Grand Theft Auto, or not Grand Theft Auto. What did I play? Gran Turismo 3 on PS2.
Gran Turismo 3.
That was... I've wasted so much of my life on that game. I didn't even miss the graphics. I didn't care.
It was better than the version on the Apple IIe, but that's about all I'll give it.
Anyway.
All right. What is the M390? This is an Intel motherboard, right? So that's a couple generations old right now.
Not today. Not today, it's not.
Oh, wait, no. Is that Spatium? Spatium?
It's
Spatium.
Spadium, like stadium, except with a T.
Google
Spadium.
Spadium.
It's not a good name, is what it is.
Not really. It's an MSI
I'm gonna go
SSD.
to that special place on the corner and get Spadium.
Ooh, it's a DRAM
I got a guy selling it by the pound.
SSD.
Wait, what? What? No DRAM? E15?
Nope.
No DRAM with E15. That's
WTF.
kind of a new thing.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe them, but then again, I didn't see any on the little peel-offs. And considering it dies at the writes drop in half after 80 gig, I could actually believe that that's just all the SLC cache it's got. The good news is that if you can find it, because apparently it sold out almost immediately, is it's floating at around 11 cents a gig, which is not something we've been seeing a lot of on the TLC drives, unfortunately. They've creeped up in price to be, a little bit annoying. But if you're doing a game drive, you don't want to spend much money, you don't write much, you just read, it's getting all the benchmarks to the point where you'd expect it, a PCIe E3.0 4x.
So this is not for your boot/swap drive.
I would not suggest that, no.
Right.
Not unless you're running a really, really small
Long-term?
OS.
Long-term storage.
Yes.
Long-term
The Longstrom.
storage.
Do you
Faster than
Longstrom.
tape.
Kind of like an angstrom, but
QLC
longer.
for long-term storage? Like really long-term
Kind of like that
storage?
poet Longfellow.
All right, and now a moment of silence for FTP.
Oh, sad.
It's gone. It's been deleted from Chrome.
From
Can't
Chrome.
use it. Not even if you wanted to.
Finally dead from a browser perspective. I think Firefox has had it gone for a while now. I don't know if Safari. I don't know about that. But Chrome.
Sure you don't.
Looks like it was a holdout. I don't.
IE was gone for a long time.
Yeah, IE been gone for a while.
Well, hey, the holdouts will need to stay with version 94 or earlier then.
So yeah, poor went out for old poor FTP.
Yeah, I mean, FTP clients are so hard to use. I'd much rather fudge around in a browser and try and figure it out. It says,
You know
so
what?
many people that I support.
There was still people who were putting out links that you'd click on it and it would shift to the FTP variant of like, download these files. And it wasn't that long ago. I bet there's still some old sites that still do that sort of thing. And now you're going to get a, protocol unknown, sort of thing out of that. So whatever.
Well, no, now they're going to put another layer on top of it to translate it from FTP to HTTP.
Okay, all right. You're just making me
just
sad
gonna be-
and
yeah.
angry
No,
and
just-
tired right now.
Yeah,
No.
but it's going to
I'm
happen.
tired,
You
too.
know it is.
That's why we should shift immediately into picks of the week. Josh, wake up. Picks of the week. You.
There once was a small young man out of the province of Newfoundland. But he has nothing to do with my pick. So anyway, memory prices, really cheap. DDR5, not cheap. You got a current thing and you want to upgrade your memory and you're going to keep it for a while. DDR4 is really cheap. DDR4 3600, 2 by 16 gigs, really not very expensive at all. less than $160. This is the Cast 16 stuff, so it's the faster of what you can usually get. Sure, you can get it for 110 at Cast 18 from different manufacturers, but latency is still really nice. You know, you take what performance you can get. If you've got an AMD 5000 series, these are seriously like the perfect match for those products. So yeah, I mean, DRAM prices, they went up for a while, and then I think really they're about as low as we're going to see in DDR4. They're going to just stay right around this area. DDR5 is going to be coming out. It's going to be really expensive. That will eventually start going down. They're going to focus their manufacturing on DDR5. And I think the DDR4 stuff is just going to stay the same area for a while until it starts getting scarce, because there are no products that will use that in new PCs. And we're looking about 9 to 10 months from now for that to happen. So if you want a memory upgrade, now's a really good time to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Jeremy, your pick of the week.
Well, I mean, it was going to be an 1,800-pound, 14-inch cube of tungsten, until I found out that there were rules about the non-fungible token that it comes with. You're not even allowed to touch it until 10 weeks after you first got the NFT piece of email saying that you own this giant block. But you're only allowed to visit it once per year. And if you sell it to someone else and you have visited during that year, they must wait 12 months before they can go visit it. So, I mean, what is the point of having this non-fungible tokened tungsten cube? So instead, I'm going with Humble Bundle, which has a really, really good strategy bundle going on.
Before you go on to that, have you heard about the U.S. Federal Reserve?
Does it have an FFT?
He's
it's called Fort
though.
Knox.
He doesn't know these things. Don't divulge our national secrets to the Canadian.
Right, exactly. Send him a picture.
It's okay. We've got our old gold reserves.
Really?
We just don't dig them up, so they're a lot harder to get at.
They're still in mines. Is that what
Clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Hey, you want to go get it? Good luck, dude. Have fun. Don't freeze to death, eh?
So what's in the bundle?
Well, I mean, at $25, you already get Empire of Sin, which pretty much sells for more than that right now on just about anywhere. Tyranny was a lot of fun. Crusader Kings 2, it's not the game, but it is a nice starter pack to dump into it. Victoria 2, which is, a little bit old, but if you want to take over the world in Victorian ages, it's great to do. I now own a fishing game for the first time ever. I don't know that I'm ever actually going to play that. And Age of Wonders.
The fishing games are surprisingly relaxing.
Well, but now I can do that in any game, Josh.
It's true. If it's a
I
Japanese
think
game,
the new Far
especially.
Cry has fishing in it.
Skyrim
So I can just sort of-
supposedly have fishing in it this next, anniversary? Maybe?
Yep. It's coming in.
All right.
I don't know, just fire up some Red Dead Redemption and sit by a pond for a while. It's relaxing. And you also get Age of Wonders Planetfall, which is, again, still running about $25 or $30. So overall, it's a pretty good deal if you're into the sort of turn-based stuff and don't want to pay a bunch for Empire of Sin just in case it really does suck as much as a lot of people are saying.
Excellent. Brett, you have a pick this week that didn't come from OWC? What's happening?
Didn't come from Woot or OWC. Weird. So I was searching for a good deal on some games, and the first one that I saw was Just Cause 2 and all of its DLC available from GOG for only $5. And then just a little while ago, I got what I thought was an even better offer for Metro Exodus Gold for only $16. So this is the one that I picked. This is a pretty darn good price for Metro Exodus Gold Edition, which includes 2 of the DLCs, 2 kernels, and if you scroll down, you see the other one. You can add the full collection of Metro Exodus. If you haven't bought this yet, this is a pretty good price for the Exodus as well as the the couple of DLCs that come with it. But don't forget that GOG also has, or GOG also has things like Just Cause 2 and all of its DLC available for $4.99. So don't forget to check GOG when you're looking for some games to put in your library that you won't play for a couple
Yeah.
of years.
Add to the backlog.
Yes,
That's what I do.
exactly. But add to the backlog when you can buy all of it at a reduced price.
Right. So then you can feel really good about yourself when you look at your
Yes.
library.
Oh, not only do I have a huge backlog, but I got it at a really, really stonking deal.
Okay. My
It's
pick
like
this
your own
week.
personal Bitcoin. Your wallet is your Steam account.
Or GOG or whatever
Nah,
it is you're
only if
using to
you could
manage your games,
pass the
Origin or
games.
whatever. If you feel bad about yourself.
Oh, I feel bad about myself all the time.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there you go. You're probably using Origin.
My pick this week is apparently already out of stock because earlier it was a Prime option and now it just says one option from. It's these RGB LED floor lights, floodlights, I should say. They're 25 watts each. They plug into the wall. They have a remote control. They are providing the light on the wall behind me right now. This is what I bought to do this.
ooh.
So the glow back here.
You know, well, your lighting has been much improved today as compared to last
Yeah.
week and weeks prior.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
not so
some-
flat back here. I'm trying to add some more dimension to the
Could I
space.
say that it's deep purple?
That's the point.
Could I say that?
I feel like purple's the
it is.
safest color to use. You don't want like an Intel shill with blue,
I don't know any deep
No blue.
AMD
songs.
shill. Certainly don't want to have
Red.
green back there because that'll make
Green.
AMD Radeon fans mad.
Dude, your aura is green though.
Is it?
Sure. Your
Okay.
Kirlian effect. It's mostly green and extends quite outside your body.
No.
What I want to know,
Are
are you using one of those floods or two? Are you
two.
using
It comes with two
Okay.
for $40.
Okay.
I think I only paid like 35, but anyway. So there's one on either side of me, just pointed straight at the wall. So anyway, you can do a lot of things with these, and they're very bright. So use them as a floodlight, even. Just set it to the white setting and blind yourself. I see the cat is...
The cat is back.
Cat's back.
We
Yep.
thought she was a goner, but the cat, came back.
So
Just
that's where
couldn't
the
stay away.
static arcing is coming from on your mic.
It is not. It is not. She only showed up 3 minutes ago. She has been living down in the basement because of dogs who have turned aggressive towards her. So she now lives down there by herself. And
That
I
stinks.
go to
Oh.
visit.
No.
That's sad.
And she comes to visit me when they're all upstairs. So, yeah, I'm hoping to rectify that situation with some training. But, yeah, poor Rainey.
Indeed.
She's a sweet girl.
All right. Well, on that note, let's end this show.